What is up, my Squirtleites? It is Desire King, welcoming you back to another weekly update. Right off the bat, again, what do I have to do every freaking weekly update is I have to apologize. Apologize for something not going right, but I guess I should explain what's happened. So, like I said in the last weekly update, I was in the process of moving things and getting things all set up. Well, I am set up now. I have an office now, which is apart from everything else. Things are much more clean, much more smooth for the most part. I have a problem though. So in getting my new office, I also got myself a quote-unquote new television. And I say quote-unquote new television because it's a new TV for me, but it's like an 8-9-year-old television at that. The reason I got this television is because it's one of those TVs, you know, back in the day when HDMI was just becoming a thing. Or I guess not just becoming a thing, but there were still so many, you know, AV and component dependent things at the time that HDMI wasn't the standard yet. So it has HDMI capability, but it also has capability for literally everything else, which is why I wanted to get this TV, because I can pretty much play any system on it with no problem. Because, you know, all those new TVs, they have a very hard time with, you know, older systems like this, Super Nintendo and the N64. This one does not, and that's why I wanted to get it. However, it is also at that sweet period of time where 3.5mm audio jacks they just weren't common. They were not common at the time, so it instead has a digital audio output. So I have to require the necessary cables and stuff whatnot so I can actually play back my audio while I record without it popping up on the mic, which is why I haven't been able to record anything yet. Now you might say, well, why don't you just mute the audio and stuff like that? The thing is, depending on the game I'm doing, especially with what my next Let's Play is going to be, the audio is incredibly crucial. I might have been able to get away with the first impressions, but I didn't really want to take a chance on it, because again, I don't know what I'm getting into. But as far as this next Let's Play that I'm recording is concerned, I need to be able to hear that audio when I record it, and the way that the Blue Yeti picks up, you know, background noise, it just wouldn't. I would not have been able to overlay it in a way that it didn't pick up and sound awful on recording. So I can't do anything about it. I have to wait for the necessary cables to come in, but it's not going to take that long. In fact, when you guys get this update, it shouldn't be more than a couple of days, and I should have that Let's Play started soon enough. It's a very short Let's Play, but it's not what I originally intended either. I was originally actually going to be Let's Playing Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. And upon actually diving into that game, I decided to change my mind. I just didn't feel like I was lending anything to it, nor was the game, you know, I don't know, I just didn't connect with it very well. And I don't want to say not enjoying the game, because I obviously didn't get very far into it, but I only got like a half hour into it, and I was just like, you know, this isn't working, so I just kind of dumped the idea, at least for now. So I have something else in mind, which is a game that I've actually already beaten. This is not going to be blind. I've already beaten this game before, so you know what to expect in that regard. That aside, things are pretty good right now. Everything looks great. It's all set up very nice. I'm not in this cramped space anymore. I can kind of record whenever the heck I want, so I have a lot less limitation because I'm not sharing a space with any one person anymore. So that's pretty great too. So something I wanted to talk about, I guess, you know, concerning upcoming Let's Plays are the two games that are releasing in the beginning of August. That being Abzu and No Man's Sky. I still haven't quite decided if I want to do a Let's Play of Abzu. I think I want to play through it once first by myself before I do that. Of the two, it was the one I was leaning on doing the most, but as we've gotten closer and closer to release, not that I have doubts about the game or anything, I just have doubts on whether or not I should be Let's Playing the game. Obviously, it's very similar to Journey and Architecture, and I have done a Journey Let's Play. I just don't know if Abzu is going to lend itself in quite the same way. That being said, the other game, which I'm a lot more reluctant to Let's Play, but again, I want to see how it is first, is No Man's Sky. Now, obviously, No Man's Sky has endless possibilities, quote-unquote, and every single playthrough is 100% unique to each player, quote unquote. So, you know, again, I can't really tell you how that's going to be, nor what my impressions of it are going to be. My thoughts on that game leading up to its release are much more scattered, and I think this is true for a lot of people than most other games. We still don't know quite what to think of No Man's Sky, whether or not we're going to thoroughly enjoy it or not. If it's a game that lends itself to adventure on top of exploring very, very well, then I think yes, I will want to do some videos on it. If it's more just kind of walking around and there's really not anything exciting to the exploration aspect, it's more like therapeutic, let's say, then I'm probably going to skip it. But again, we'll just have to see how that is when it finally launches. I will try to put in quite a few hours into it before I make that call finally. But either one should be the Let's Play that follows immediately after. If immediately after what the next one is going to be, because that's gonna, like I said, going to be a very, very short Let's Play. So, and then I still have a few Let's Plays waiting in the wings for this year. I still have 5 on the schedule. Next week is going to be the one where I actually finally announce what Let's Play 51 is going to be, because it's not the one. It's not what I haven't talked about it yet. I haven't talked about 51. I've talked about 52 and 53. Those are Banjo-Tooie and Super Mario 64. Still have a ways to go on those. They're also not going to be coming out for a little bit. But that aside, I still haven't talked about 51 yet. 54 should be The Last Guardian. It should be. I can't really think of anything else I'm going to do in between that. And then 55 is likely going to be a fully fledged, hopefully, much more organized reboot of Skyrim. Let's Play Skyrim. That's the idea, at least for the remainder of the year. I still don't know yet entirely. I mean, I'm always playing things by ear. And then of course there's that other series I was talking about, that Overwatch series I wanted to work on, and I'm sure I probably just threw up Overwatch gameplay over this update because it's really all I have to show, because that's all I've been playing over the last week. But those Overwatch videos, I've been working on those quite extensively. Actually, I've got a few scripts done now. I've got the scripts for probably the first 4 or 5 episodes done. I say 4 or 5 because one of them I'm not sure if it's going to be a first episode or just an introduction. But that aside, those I think are actually going to come along really well. I feel like I am, you know, as much as I do like to live commentate and Let's Play and stuff like that, I'm a lot more comfortable in a scripted environment. As long as I'm the one doing the scripting, okay? You know, I don't think I could ever, you know, make a living or do, you know, just be comfortable with reading off someone else's script all the time. I like to phrase things the way I want to phrase them. The only thing is when I'm trying to think off the top of my head, I don't know, my mouth isn't able to process things as quickly as my brain is, so I trip over my words a lot. I stutter. I have that problem. But when I script things, I can be a lot more coherent, and I can express my thoughts the way I intend them to be expressed, rather than just fumbling over myself as I do it, like I am in this video. I mean, I've always been bad at that. Unfortunately, post-commentary is just something that, you know, if scripted, is a lot more time-consuming, and, you know, even if it's not scripted, is more time-consuming because, you know, you record for 2 hours, okay, of live commentary. Well, if you record that 2 hours of gameplay and then record the commentary afterwards, that takes 4 hours of time instead. So post-commentary in and of itself just takes longer, and as a result is not something that's feasible for me to do. So that's why I do live commentary. That aside, I value being able to post-commentate things so much more. And hopefully when I'm able to get things scripted, and I can start doing stuff in that environment a lot more, because like those top 5 lists I make and whatnot, and some of those, like, you know, just discussion videos, I've made a very, very few of those, but I do want to make more. Those discussion videos I've made, I feel like those are the best things I put out, commentary-wise anyway. So hopefully I'll be able to do more of that in the future, and I would very much like to start with this Overwatch series I have planned. Of course, I'm going to have to make changes along the way because Overwatch is an evolving game and whatnot, and I'm sure by the time I'm actually able to make those videos, new information will come to light, and I'll have to plan accordingly and work around that. But I think it's actually going to turn out pretty well. I don't really think I'm gonna. I don't really think, it's going to take too much practice to, I guess, make it into something good. It's just going to take time. That's all it's really going to be. And hopefully when it finally does start, I can make it like a weekly series or something. And, hey, that'll be pretty cool. Because something I've noticed as far as like Overwatch is concerned is even most people that don't even play it have a lot of respect for its characters and its lore. It's very appealing. It's got that aesthetic that's very similar to something like Pixar. Okay, that's what it's been compared to a lot in its animation style. That in and of itself is very appealing to pretty much everybody, even if they're not playing the game. Overwatch itself is a little bit, actually, as far as the story is concerned, a bit dark and heavy-handed at times. Not always, but it is a little bit, which can be a turnoff for some people. But I think for the most part, Overwatch is very accessible. And even if you don't actually play the game very much, you can get behind the lore and the story. All right. So, like, I was actually making a comparison earlier today about Overwatch's lore versus Destiny's lore. Now, Overwatch's lore is actually, most people who play the game or even outside of the game kind of have a grasp on, or it makes sense to them, okay? Especially through, like, the way the trailers were presented in Overwatch. You can tell that there's an underlying story there. Everyone knows it's a PvP only game, at least at the moment, but everyone understands that there is a story to be told. There's a story behind it all, rather than Destiny, which gets the rap of having no story. Not true, because Destiny actually has probably much more extensive lore and history to it than Overwatch does. But I think the difference between the two is that Destiny is a lore that's 100% focused on world building. Not character building, world building. There is only one character in all of Destiny that has gotten the extensive character building treatment that any of Overwatch's heroes have gotten, and that is the villain from the second expansion, Oryx, from the Taken King. He is really the only character in the entire game that's gotten like a full-fledged story behind him. Everyone else has snippets of information. They've got a little bit of personality, but otherwise it's more about the world, about the events leading up to the game, and about the alien races and the way they work and whatnot. There's a lot of lore in it, but in that regard, I don't know if I necessarily find it as compelling. If you are a sci-fi geek and you like that kind of stuff, Destiny's got amazing lore. But when it comes to interesting characters, which is something I find much more appealing because I love character writing and I love character pieces, Overwatch is very appealing to me in that regard, because I feel like every single one of those characters has some pretty cool appeal to them, and then there's a lot to be explored and delved into. I mean, some of them are very one note, I will admit. Like Reaper, he's just the straight up bad guy. That's just what he is, and he just wants to kill everybody. I mean, there's really not much more to it. I mean, of course there's a story leading up to it, but his personality is extremely one note. That's why everyone makes the jokes about him being the edgelord. But then you have other characters who are actually a lot more complex, such as let's see, like Mei and Junkrat, Zarya. I mean, they actually have a lot more to them. And then there's, while they do kind of have these stereotypical personalities, as in Junkrat's kind of the crazy, and like Zarya is just the extremely, buff bodybuilding woman. I mean, they might have that, but there's a very good reason for it, and there's also, stories behind them in that regard, which I think, which lends to their personality, and sometimes they also exhibit those traits that are different from what their stereotype makes them out to be. Which, again, I love that. I absolutely adore that about the game, and that's why I can't wait to delve into it further. Wow, I actually talked about that a lot more than I was planning on. But I honestly don't really have anything else to talk about in this update. I mean, all that really happened is I got my office set up. I've got, everything's great. I mean, I've posted pictures on Twitter and whatnot. I've got this really cool, I'd almost call it a 3-monitor setup because of the way my TV's positioned. Got my game systems all neatly organized and everything. I'm trying to get some HDMI selectors in just so that I can, without having to change wires around, just make it all nice and seamless. Got all my games set up. Everything looks great in here. I would say this room is actually more complete than my bedroom is. So, I mean, yeah, it's awesome. It's great. I'm extremely excited to be able to record in here for the next while, probably another year. before I end up moving out of this place. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say. It's great. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic, and I can't wait to record more in the future in this environment. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so very much for watching. Thank you for putting up with me, and thank you for listening to me ramble on at times, whether it be, in a Let's Play format or just right here. I can't really help it. It's just who I am, and it's what I do. But thank you for listening, and thank you for tolerating it. And thank you so very much for watching. And I will see you all in the next one.